The private family Christmas celebration that followed Louis's public debut was filled with warmth and laughter as three generations of royals gathered in the castle's more intimate family quarters. King Charles III and Queen Camilla had watched the morning's events unfold through news coverage and social media updates, their pride in their youngest grandson evident as they welcomed the Wales family back from their public duties. The contrast between the formal morning protocols and the relaxed family atmosphere created the perfect balance for Louis to process his significant day. Louis's energy remained remarkably high as he burst into the family drawing room, immediately launching into animated descriptions of every person he had met, every interaction that had delighted him, and every moment that had surprised him during his first major public appearance. His grandparents listened with genuine fascination as he recounted details that adult observers had missed, demonstrating the unique perspective that children bring to formal occasions. The traditional royal Christmas lunch provided an opportunity for extended family members who had not witnessed the morning's events to hear first-hand accounts from someone who had experienced them. Louis's storytelling ability shone as he described the lady with the beautiful hat who had given him a candy cane, the man who had sung "God Save the King" in a funny voice, and the little girl whose Christmas card drawing featured what she claimed was his portrait, complete with crown and cape. Princess Anne, known for her no-nonsense approach to royal duties, was particularly impressed by Louis's mature handling of the public interactions. She had observed many young royals over the decades make their public debuts, but few had demonstrated such natural ease with crowds while maintaining appropriate dignity. Her praise carried special weight, as she was widely regarded as one of the hardest-working and most effective members of the royal family. The afternoon brought the traditional exchange of Christmas gifts, a moment Louis had been anticipating all day. However, his excitement about the presents was now mixed with stories about the gifts people in the crowd had tried to give him and the homemade cards and drawings children had held up for him to see. He seemed to understand that the real gift of the day had been the opportunity to bring joy to others, a sophisticated emotional understanding that impressed the adults around him. King Charles presented Louis with a special gift that had been commissioned specifically to commemorate his first major public appearance. The beautifully crafted children's book told the story of a young prince who discovers that his most important royal duty is spreading happiness and kindness wherever he goes. The personalized illustrations featured scenes remarkably similar to those from the morning's actual events, creating a permanent reminder of this milestone day. As afternoon melted into evening, the family gathered around the massive Christmas tree in the main hall, its lights twinkling against the ancient stone walls. Louis positioned himself comfortably between his parents on a large sofa, his small body finally showing signs of fatigue from the emotional and physical demands of his historic day. But, even as he grew quieter, his mind continued processing the significance of what he had experienced. Catherine used the peaceful evening atmosphere to help Louis understand the broader meaning of his public role. She explained that being born into the royal family came with special responsibilities, but also special opportunities to make people happy and feel connected to something larger than themselves. The people who had come to see them weren't just curious onlookers, but individuals who found joy and hope in the continuity and tradition that the monarchy represented. The evening news broadcasts provided the family with an external perspective on the day's events, and Louis watched with fascination as he saw himself on television. The professional commentary praised his natural charm and authentic interactions, while social media segments showed the overwhelmingly positive public reaction to his debut. Seeing himself through the eyes of others helped him understand the impact his behavior had on people he had never met. Television presenters and royal correspondents unanimously described the day as a triumph for the monarchy's future, noting that Louis's genuine personality and obvious enjoyment of public engagement suggested that the royal family would continue to thrive in coming generations. Child development experts interviewed for the coverage praised his parents' approach to gradually introducing him to public life while preserving his natural authenticity. International media coverage proved equally positive, with foreign correspondents noting that Louis's debut had generated the kind of positive royal coverage that strengthens Britain's soft power and cultural influence around the world. Images of his interactions with children and elderly well-wishers were being shared across continents, spreading British royal charm far beyond the United Kingdom's borders. As bedtime approached, Louis reluctantly prepared to end this extraordinary day, but not before extracting promises from his parents about future public appearances. His enthusiasm for connecting with people had clearly been awakened, and he expressed genuine interest in participating in more royal duties as he grew older. This represented exactly the kind of positive association with public service that would serve him well throughout his life. The traditional Christmas evening prayers took on special significance as the family gathered in their private chapel within the castle. Louis's participation in these intimate religious observances demonstrated that his morning experience in St. George's Chapel had deepened rather than exhausted his spiritual engagement. His quiet reverence during the evening prayers showed sophisticated emotional maturity for such a young child. Before retiring to his room, Louis insisted on reviewing the schedule of upcoming family events, particularly those that might include public appearances. His eagerness to participate in royal duties was balanced by his parents' careful consideration of age-appropriate involvement levels, but his enthusiasm clearly indicated that future public engagements would be met with excitement rather than reluctance. The personal gifts and cards that palace staff had carefully collected from well-wishers during the day were brought to Louis's room, creating an impressive display of public affection that overwhelmed him with gratitude. Each handmade card and small gift represented an individual who had been touched by meeting him, and he insisted on looking at every single item before going to sleep. Catherine tucked Louis into bed that night knowing that her youngest son had successfully navigated one of the most important transitions in any royal child's life. His natural personality had proven perfectly suited to public engagement, while his genuine kindness and curiosity had created exactly the kind of positive royal moments that strengthened public support for the monarchy. As Louis drifted off to sleep, his mind was filled with images of smiling faces, warm greetings, and the magical feeling of bringing joy to others simply by being himself. The success of his Christmas debut had established him as a beloved member of the royal family in his own right, while his authentic interactions had demonstrated that the future of the monarchy remained in excellent hands. The day's events would be remembered not just as successful public relations, but as the moment when Prince Louis discovered his own unique royal identity. His natural charisma, combined with careful preparation and family support, had created a template for future royal children making their public debuts. Most importantly, his genuine enjoyment of connecting with people suggested that his future royal career would be characterized by authentic service rather than mere duty. The magical Christmas debut of Prince Louis had concluded with resounding success, but, more significantly, it had marked the beginning of what promised to be a lifetime of meaningful public service characterized by warmth, authenticity, and genuine care for others. The little prince who had won hearts during his first major public appearance was clearly destined to become a cherished figure in British royal history, carrying forward the best traditions of the monarchy while adding his own special touch of youthful wonder and genuine human connection. The interior of St. George's Chapel embraced the royal family with its timeless grandeur as they made their way to the front pews. Ancient stone walls adorned with centuries of royal heraldry rose majestically around them, while stained glass windows caught the winter sunlight and cast rainbow patterns across the floor. For Louis, entering this sacred space represented another milestone in his young life, but his fascination with the surroundings was evident as his eyes darted from the ornate ceiling to the impressive organ pipes towering above the congregation. The chapel filled steadily with members of the extended royal family, close friends, and staff members who had been invited to share in this intimate Christmas service. Unlike the massive Westminster Abbey gatherings for state occasions, this felt more personal and family-oriented, which suited Louis's temperament perfectly. Catherine had chosen his outfit carefully, a smart navy coat that matched his father's, paired with dark trousers and polished shoes that clicked softly against the stone floor as he walked. As the family settled into their seats, Louis positioned himself between his parents, with Charlotte on his other side providing her usual quiet support. The familiar presence of his family helped him feel secure in these new surroundings, and he began to relax as the pre-service atmosphere settled around them. Palace staff had prepared him for the length and structure of the service, but experiencing it firsthand would be entirely different from any practice sessions. The choir's entrance marked the official beginning of the service, their voices rising in harmony as they processed down the aisle in their traditional red cassocks. Louis watched with wide-eyed wonder as these young singers, some not much older than himself, performed with such precision and beauty. The music seemed to transport him, and observers noted how still and attentive he became when the choral arrangements reached their most magnificent moments. Dean of Windsor Castle delivered a Christmas message that spoke of hope, renewal, and the importance of family during the holiday season. His words resonated particularly strongly this year, as the royal family had weathered various challenges and changes, making their unity during this Christmas celebration especially meaningful. Louis listened intently, though his understanding of the deeper themes would develop over time. During the traditional Christmas carols, Lewis's voice could be heard joining in with surprising confidence. Catherine had been teaching him the words to classic Christmas songs throughout December, and his enthusiasm for participating became infectious. When Silent Night filled the ancient chapel, his clear, innocent voice blending with centuries of Christmas tradition created a moment of pure magic that moved many in the congregation to tears. The most challenging part of the service for any 5-year-old would typically be maintaining proper behavior during the quieter, more solemn moments. However, Lewis seemed to understand instinctively when reverence was required. During prayers and scripture readings, he remained remarkably composed, occasionally glancing at his parents for reassurance but generally demonstrating the same respectful attention that his siblings had learned to show during formal occasions. One particularly touching moment occurred during the intercessory prayers, when the dean offered special thoughts for families separated during the holidays and those facing difficulties during the Christmas season. Lewis, perhaps sensing the emotional weight of these words, reached over and quietly took his mother's hand. This spontaneous gesture of comfort and connection, noticed by those nearby, exemplified his natural empathy and emotional intelligence. The traditional Christmas blessing brought the formal service to a close, but Lewis's experience in the chapel was far from over. As the congregation began to file out, he remained seated for a moment, seemingly absorbing the significance of what had just occurred. The combination of beautiful music, meaningful words, and sacred atmosphere had clearly made an impression on his young mind. Exiting the chapel required another public appearance, as the crowds outside had grown even larger during the service. Word of Lewis's charming behavior during the morning walk had spread through social media and news outlets, drawing additional well-wishers who hoped to catch a glimpse of the young prince who was capturing hearts across the nation. The afternoon sun had emerged from behind the clouds, casting a golden glow over the winter scene as the royal family emerged from the chapel. Lewis blinked in the bright light, then broke into another genuine smile as he saw the assembled crowds waiting patiently for their return appearance. This time, his confidence had grown from the morning's successful interactions, and he seemed even more comfortable engaging with the public. A group of children from a local school had been given special permission to wait near the chapel entrance, and Lewis's attention immediately gravitated toward them. Their excitement at meeting a real prince their own age was palpable, and he responded by walking directly over to their section of the crowd. Palace protection officers moved smoothly to accommodate this unplanned interaction, while photographers captured every moment of the spontaneous meet and greet. One little girl, roughly Lewis's age, had prepared a hand-drawn Christmas card specifically hoping to give it to him. When she shyly held it out, Lewis accepted it graciously and spent a moment actually looking at her artwork rather than simply taking it and moving on. His genuine interest in her gift and the careful way he thanked her demonstrated developing social skills that impressed royal watchers and child development experts alike. The interaction with the schoolchildren extended longer than anyone had anticipated, but William and Catherine recognized the value of these authentic connections and allowed the moment to unfold naturally. Lewis seemed energized rather than overwhelmed by the attention, asking the children about their Christmas plans and sharing his own excitement about the holiday celebrations ahead. As they finally began to move away from the chapel, Lewis surprised everyone by suggesting they sing a Christmas carol with the crowd. This spontaneous idea caught his parents off guard, but before they could redirect him, several people in the gathering began singing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," and Lewis joined in enthusiastically. The impromptu caroling session that followed became one of the most memorable moments of any royal Christmas celebration in recent memory. Social media platforms exploded with videos and photos from the chapel visit, particularly focusing on Lewis's natural interactions and obvious enjoyment of the public engagement. Royal correspondents noted that his behavior represented a perfect balance between royal protocol and childhood authenticity, suggesting that his upbringing was successfully preparing him for future public responsibilities while preserving his natural personality. The return walk to Windsor Castle provided another opportunity for Lewis to connect with well-wishers, and his energy seemed to increase rather than diminish as the day progressed. He waved to people in windows, acknowledged signs and banners that supporters had created, and even stopped to pet a corgi that someone had brought to the gathering, much to the delight of everyone present. Back at the castle, as the family prepared for their private Christmas celebrations, the impact of Lewis's public debut was already being felt far beyond Windsor. News outlets around the world were preparing stories about the charming young prince who had won hearts with his genuine warmth and natural charisma. Social media engagement with royal content had reached levels not seen since major celebrations like jubilees or weddings. The success of the morning's events had exceeded everyone's expectations, but, perhaps most importantly, Louis himself had clearly enjoyed the experience. His positive association with public duties at such a young age boded well for his future role in the royal family and suggested that he would grow into his responsibilities with the same grace and authenticity that had characterized his Christmas debut. As the family gathered for their private Christmas lunch, Louis's excitement about the morning's adventures was evident as he recounted his favorite moments to his grandparents and other family members who had not been present for the public appearances. His enthusiasm and detailed memory of individual interactions demonstrated how meaningful the experience had been for him personally. The afternoon would bring more private family time, but the public portion of Prince Louis's first major Christmas engagement had concluded with resounding success, establishing him as a natural ambassador for the royal family and creating lasting memories for everyone who had witnessed his delightful debut on the royal stage. The morning of December 25 arrived with a crisp winter chill that painted frost patterns across the windows of Windsor Castle. Inside the royal residence, 5-year-old Prince Louis was already wide awake, his excitement barely contained as he pressed his small face against the cold glass, watching snowflakes dance in the early morning light. This Christmas would be different from all the others. For the first time, he would join the traditional royal walk to church, appearing before the cameras and crowds that had been waiting to see more of the youngest Wales child. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, had been preparing Louis for this moment for weeks. She understood the weight of public appearances, having navigated them herself for over a decade. But, with Louis, everything felt more delicate. His spontaneous nature and genuine reactions had already made him a favorite during previous brief appearances, like when he covered his ears during the Platinum Jubilee flypast or made faces during the coronation. Today would test whether that natural charm could shine during a longer, more formal public engagement. The castle buzzed with quiet activity as staff prepared for the day ahead. Royal protection officers conducted their final security sweeps, while palace communications teams coordinated with media outlets positioning themselves along the route to St. George's Chapel. The Christmas morning church service had been a royal tradition for generations, but this year felt particularly significant. King Charles III, now in his second year as monarch, wanted to showcase the continuity of the monarchy through his grandchildren. Prince William emerged from his private quarters earlier than usual, already dressed in his navy overcoat. He had spent considerable time discussing the day's events with Catherine, knowing that Louis's unpredictable personality could either create magical moments or challenging ones. They had decided to keep their approach relaxed, allowing Louis to be himself while gently guiding him through the protocols. Down the corridor, Princess Charlotte was helping her younger brother with his shoes, a scene that would have melted hearts if cameras had been present. At 7 years old, she had already developed a protective instinct toward Louis, often serving as his unofficial guide during family events. Prince George, now 11 and increasingly aware of his future role, was reviewing the order of events with his father, demonstrating the maturity expected of a future heir. The breakfast room filled with the aroma of traditional Christmas morning treats, but Louis could barely sit still long enough to eat. His mind raced with questions about what would happen, who they would meet, and whether he would be allowed to wave at the people gathered outside. Catherine noticed his nervous energy and decided to channel it positively by explaining what made this Christmas special. She knelt down to Louis's eye level, her voice gentle but clear. The people waiting outside weren't just curious observers, she explained, but families who had chosen to spend part of their Christmas morning hoping to catch a glimpse of the royal family. Many had traveled long distances, some had been waiting since dawn, and all of them would be thrilled to see him. This wasn't just about fulfilling royal duties, but about bringing joy to others during the most wonderful time of year. Louis listened intently, his blue eyes wide with understanding. The concept of making others happy simply by being present resonated with his naturally giving spirit. He began to see the day not as something he had to endure, but as an opportunity to spread Christmas cheer. This shift in perspective would prove crucial as the morning progressed. As the family gathered in the main hall, Louis stood between his siblings, his small hand clasped firmly in Charlotte's. The contrast between his diminutive stature and the grand surroundings created a poignant image of childhood innocence within centuries-old tradition. Palace photographers captured a few informal shots before the formal procession began, knowing that these candid moments often became the most treasured historical records. The heavy oak doors opened to reveal crowds of well-wishers already assembled along the path. The sight that greeted Louis was unlike anything he had experienced before. Hundreds of people, many wearing festive Christmas colors, held phones and cameras aloft while calling out cheerful Christmas greetings. Children his own age pressed against the barriers, their faces bright with excitement at seeing a real prince their age. William and Catherine flanked their youngest son, ready to provide support if needed, but Louis surprised everyone by stepping forward with confidence. His natural curiosity overcame any initial nervousness as he began to take in the scene before him. The genuine warmth radiating from the crowd seemed to energize rather than intimidate him. The walk to the chapel traditionally took about 10 minutes, but today the royal family moved more slowly, acknowledging the special nature of Louis's first official Christmas appearance. Palace aides had briefed the media about maintaining appropriate distances and respecting the family's privacy, particularly regarding the children, but the atmosphere remained festive and welcoming. As they began their procession, Louis's authentic reactions began to unfold. When a small child in the crowd waved enthusiastically, he immediately waved back with both hands, his face breaking into a genuine smile that photographers captured from every angle. The image of his uninhibited joy would later become one of the most shared royal photos of the holiday season. Halfway along the route, an elderly woman called out a Christmas blessing, and Louis surprised everyone by stopping to acknowledge her properly. Without any prompting from his parents, he executed a small, careful bow that he had been practicing in private. The spontaneous gesture of respect toward an elderly well-wisher demonstrated that his lessons in royal protocol were taking hold, even as his personality remained refreshingly unguarded. The media representatives positioned along the route found themselves witnessing something special. Unlike formal photo opportunities or staged events, this was authentic royal family life unfolding naturally. Louis's interactions weren't scripted or coached, they emerged from his genuine interest in the people around him and his growing understanding of his unique position in their lives. Charlotte remained close to her brother throughout the walk, occasionally whispering gentle reminders about walking pace or pointing out particularly enthusiastic supporters. Her protective instincts and mature guidance provided Louis with the confidence to engage more freely with the crowd, knowing he had family support every step of the way. As they approached the chapel entrance, Louis paused to look back at the gathering they were leaving behind. The sight of so many smiling faces and the sound of Christmas carols being sung spontaneously by various groups in the crowd seemed to make a lasting impression on him. This moment of reflection, captured by long-range cameras, would later be described by royal commentators as evidence of his developing awareness of the special relationship between the royal family and the British people. The chapel doors stood open, revealing the warm glow of candlelight and the rich sounds of the choir preparing for the service. But, before entering this sacred space, Louis took one final look at the crowd, raising his small hand in a farewell wave that prompted a chorus of "Merry Christmas, Prince Louis," from the assembled well-wishers. Inside the chapel, as the family settled into their seats, Louis's first major public Christmas engagement had already proven to be a resounding success. The genuine connections he had made with people along the route, his natural responses to their enthusiasm, and his obvious enjoyment of the experience had created exactly the kind of positive royal moment that strengthens the bond between the monarchy and the public. The service was about to begin, but the real magic of Prince Louis's Christmas debut had already unfolded in those precious minutes walking among the people who had come to share in the royal family's holiday celebration. The images and memories created during that short journey would become part of royal Christmas tradition, marking the moment when the youngest Wales child stepped confidently into his public role while remaining authentically, charmingly himself.